Any other comments?
Yeah, I think there's another one here from Maxin Nakawa. I don't recognize that. But thanks for commenting anyway.
Cool, new one.
I think some Igorots born or grew up to a foreign country don't really know or are interested in their own culture. So I would say, from my experience, this really depends because, yeah, it really depends on the person. You can't really say that as a blanket statement because, from my experience, here it's kind of the opposite. People that I've talked to here are more interested in learning about their culture, at least now, compared to some people in the Philippines and some that have migrated here recently. Just talking to them, and that's what they've said. They haven't learned much there. I mean, some, but yeah, not as many people are pursuing it in the Philippines as opposed to overseas or abroad.
Yeah, because what's more popular out in the Philippines is like K-pop.
Yeah. Dang, BTS is everywhere. Wow.
Oh, my kids are into BTS. My God. Jeez.
Hey, BTS closed out Michelle and Barack Obama's like graduation celebration last week. I was like, dude, they're talking Korean, and that's how they're closing off the whole like 4-hour like graduation ceremony. I was like, wow, that's incredible. Like, it's BTS, but
that's awesome because in terms of being Pan-Asian, being Pan-Asian, I mean,
the more Asian.
The more Asian folks can represent out there in the world, then maybe there's less stereotypes on all of us. You know what I'm saying?
No Chinese.
But in regards to that, I believe that's a blanket statement, and I usually hear that a lot from first generation folks. They tend to say that about second and third generations, like, oh, they don't want to learn. They don't want to learn. My thing on that is that I think, yes, there's an individual responsibility, but from when they're a child, I think there's a community responsibility. And so sometimes there are people who don't learn because there's not a big enough community to actually promote the culture, especially Igorot culture. But when there is a big enough community, I feel that there is a responsibility amongst all the people to help the young ones grow up to learn about their culture, whether they hate it or not, or they hate learning it or not. You know, I think that we have to think of better ways to teach things. And for me personally, one of my personal goals is, or in my mind, one of the dreams I have is that like our community can develop language classes for younger folks. You know, whether it to be learning Ilocano, Tagalog, or Kankanai, or wherever you're from. I think there should be more Filipinos doing that. More Filipino groups and communities doing that for their children instead of expecting them to just learn on their own. So I don't know. It's not necessarily the case for all folks. Now, when they get older, then they have that choice, you know. But how much influence did they have when they were younger? I think it's a community responsibility, and just us as a community, Igorot wide, internationally, these are the issues that we're thinking about, because we're not even thinking about like just us anymore. We're thinking about our kids and their kids and their kids' kids. I mean, that's how we're gonna be able to. We have to think future generations instead of just us and the next generation. We got to think about those kind of things as a community. Yeah, that's my response to that. Because I hear that all the time, and sometimes it bugs me.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair assumption. To be fair, up until you do interact with more people in diaspora, because from my experience, it is kind of true. It is definitely kind of true. But the more I've interacted with other people, like such as yourselves, and especially in IIC, right? Like that definitely is counteracts that statement that she made. But I do really think it's a fair assumption. Like for me, like how I was taught when I was younger is personal accountability and personal responsibility is something that should be taken to, like, it's an important thing. And for sure, I actually can agree to that sort of statement. But at the same time, there are people that totally disprove that. So, like, I think it's a fair assumption. But.
And I think visibility from the community is important too.
Exactly.
It's like I'll tell you, for Jay and I, we were totally like when we saw the folks from Bebop of LA doing their thing, especially when we saw younger people doing it. How much there was a lot of like, oh man, there's a lot of sense of pride that came from that, and whether a lot of those folks during that during that time period knew that they were influencing other young Igorots to want to take part of it. And I think I guess that's kind of like what you said as well, Lido. Like from IIC, you saw the people like learning about the culture, expressing the culture around your age group, and it's like that's something that can like inspire and motivate you to want to learn more.
It's dope that you're saying. It's dope that you're saying LA people were very active and whatnot, because I've been seeing that people from LA are saying that people in San Francisco are the more active ones. So at the end of the day, like everyone's really active. Like before, like Seattle's the super active one. And then, like you can see comments about us in Vancouver being active, but like from our perspective, I guess like the grass is always greener on the other side, right? We always say we always think that y'all down south are like the ones that are really more active. So that's an interesting perspective.
It's a good energy. It's a good energy.
Right.